In the beginning, there was a perfect void, empty of all, even time and space, a vast and endless nothingness cloaked in a deep and all-consuming silence. Within this void existed the Nameless, a power so incredible and incomprehensible that in all the universe it knew only itself to exist, knew only itself capable of existing in the great expanse that was its realm. The Nameless knew not why it was there, only that it was. In the quiet expanse of the void it sent itself out, to probe this empty space, to seek its boundaries if it had them. As it searched the void, all it could think about was the discovery of something different, anything other than itself. And there, as it willed it so, it found something different indeed. A pocket of space, and within it the flow of time creeping inexorably on. In all existence, this pocket of reality was the only thing different than the Nameless. Upon entering this space, something happened. Something terrible and wonderful, something terrifying and exciting. The pocket had the elements of space and time. The Nameless knew naught of these things and was unable to contain them within itself. The Nameless lashed out in all directions, filling the space with a force that knew no boundaries, then withdrew back into the familiar void to see what had become of the pocket. It was empty no longer. Instead of simply time and space existing, there now existed swirling energies, light and heat. Its perfect emptiness had been corrupted by the being of the Nameless. This new realm was still part of him, but different from all he had known. The energies collided and crashed. They were born and died. They became new and different things, none of which the Nameless had seen before or could predict. The Nameless felt wonder for the first time. Through its will, it began to shape the chaos that swirled within. To form new and interesting elements it was only now learning. Once the basic elements were formed, it used them to form planets, both huge and small, stars and swirling masses of light, all for its wonder and joy. The Nameless operated on a grand scale and set its universe in motion, moving and pulsating with its own kind of life. Throughout its center it set the stars, pinpoints of energy much like itself that may watch over this new creation. Now the swirling ball of energy needed shaping. He would need order in this new realm he had created, a way to manipulate this chaotic material. The changes that he wanted would need a finer touch, and so were born the gods of power. The Nameless reached into the chaos and drew forth 4 equal portions of the stuff of existence. Of these he took a sampling and shaped it into the gods that would divide the universe into form. The first of these he named Wraith, and set upon it the task of making solid the chaos, into the matter of which all things would be built. Wraith looked down upon the task, and before it saw the chaos was immense. Its task was enormous, and would require it to be many places throughout the cosmos to tend. It reached inside itself and divided into 13 equal parts, all to keep custodian over the multitude of mass that it would create, and each of the Wraith went into the chaos and set about dividing a fourth of the material into the matter it would call Earth. It set this earth around its lord's eyes, the stars, that he may keep watch over all his cosmos and admire its child's creations. The second he named Fenin Ro, and gave him the task of shaping the chaos. Fenin went forth and drew his portion that he named Fire, that he may set it upon the stars and shed light on his lord's cosmos. He helped the Wraith shape the solid matter into that which would be pleasing to their lord's eye. He gave warmth to the cold of chaos. The third element, water, he determined would need many forms. For this element he took the portion and split it into 3. Teru Mar would be responsible for water, the main state of the element which would give life to his worlds. Isai would lord over water in its solid state, ice, and the order and preservation it brought. Finally, Povar would lord over steam and that of life and motion. These 3 took their portion and cloaked each world with their life-giving touch. The final element he named Zegani. Hers was the duty of drawing away the material in between and setting each thing in its place. Her portion of chaos she drew away and made into air. This she used to blow the chaos away and blanket each world to cushion it from the harshness of the cold cosmos. The Nameless looked into its new creation and felt sorrow. It knew all that happened in this new place but could not experience it, for it could not contain him. Only the essence that he could reach within told him anything of this new world he had formed. He was detached from his own creation. He called out to the gods of power and commanded them to make minions, so that he could share in their experience of his new worlds. The four gods of power each reached into their elemental planes and drew forth a portion of their element to commit to this task. The gods shaped these elements with their will into that which would be their eyes and hands and that of their lord, beings of energy, much like the gods of power, but able to influence the subtleties of each world, beings of will, born of the matter of the cosmos. The gods of power knew in their dealings with each other that there must be constant balance in the universe, that it maintain its shape and no one force threatened to destroy the others, or the perfection they had strived to create under their lord's tutelage. Using this balance of force as a foundation, they began to create the gods of influence in the model of a scale. A force of darkness or destruction would be placed on one side of the scale, while a force of light or creation would be placed on the other. In the middle would be a neutral or balancing force upon which each side would find themselves equal. This would maintain the balance the gods desired without too much of their direct involvement. As needed, they combined their elements to create each god in turn. Rodset Knife, the prime healer, bestower of life and healing. The Tribunal, council of justice. Bertoxulus, the plague bringer, master of death and decay. Mithaniel Mar, he who represents all that is valorous. Fizzlethorpe Bristlebane, the king of thieves. Kazakh Thul, lord of terror. Urlasi Mar, queen of love. Druzzle Row, matron of art and goddess of magic. Inaruk, the prince of hate. Tunair, mother of all. Quelios, the tranquil, purveyor of peace. Ralos Zek, the warlord. Veeshan, the worm queen, goddess of the sky and all dragon kind. Salusek Ro, the burning prince, god of the sun and flames. Karana, the rainkeeper, god of storms. Brell Ceralis, the duke of below and god of the underfoot. Prexus, the ocean lord and god of the sea. And so the gods of power had created each god in turn, good, neutral, and evil, which the children of Norrath may choose to follow until the end of times. While the gods of light and darkness began to flex their newfound will and bicker among themselves, it was Veeshan who first soared among the great new planets. There was much to be discovered, and the Keeper of Wisdom must know it all, such that she would have the power of knowledge to serve her purpose. There was much to see, and many different worlds swirled within the space and past each other, seemingly oblivious to each other's existence. There was nothing of particular size among them, as all life was plant-like, or that of simple animals. Taking it all in, Veeshan realized that she could not keep her eyes on all of it without some kind of help. She soared to what she felt was the planet closest to the center of all that was. Here she would place her progeny to grow and watch over her lord's creation. Here would be born the seeds of her watchful dominion. She named this world Norrath, meaning foundation in the tongue of the gods. Upon this foundation, she raked her claws across the frozen continent of Velius as a farmer would plow a field. Here, she would sow her seed. She lay upon the world for many days and nights and laid her eggs within its scars. The first dragons walked the land and flew the skies. Powerful beings of great intellect, wisdom, and strength, they ruled the land as the firstborn of the gods. Of all creatures that would come, these would be the least diluted, the purest form of that which is to be born of the divine. Brell Ceralis, being the god of the underfoot, felt the claws of Veeshan dig into his domain, the spine beneath each world. Immediately he looked upon Norrath and saw what Veeshan was doing. Looking upon this, he saw a potential threat to the balance that had just been formed. From his plane of underfoot, a dark realm of vast caves and endless tunnels, he quietly created a magical portal to a cavern deep in the belly of Norrath. Through this portal, the Duke of Underfoot seeded the depths of Norrath with all manner of creatures. The Duke of Below then returned home, sealing his portal within a labyrinthine chamber of mystical living stone. As the other gods came to Norrath, Brell Ceralis approached each of them, and after some time convinced them to meet as one to discuss the fate of the world. In attendance was Tunair, the Great Mother, Prexus, the Ocean Lord, as well as Ralos Zek, the Warlord. Brell, carefully avoiding all queries as to the origins of his information, told of Veeshan's discovery of the new and potentially powerful world in which she had deposited her brood. Words befit of the King of Thieves poured forth from Brell's lips, and he proposed that they accept an alliance of sorts, to which all save Ralos Zek agreed, ignorant of the fact that Brell had already released some of his creations into the underfoot of this new world. The planet that would be called Norrath was divvied up between these beings of power for the purpose of keeping the Worm Queen in check. Each would create a race of beings to watch over Norrath and keep a vigilant eye on the schemes of dragonkind. Brell claimed the bowels of the planet and created the dwarves, stout and strong, deep beneath the mountains of Norrath. In the abysmal depths of the oceans, Prexis left his children, the Kedge, hardy aquatic beings of great mental power and stamina. And on the surface of Norrath did Tuner create the elves, creatures of limitless grace and beauty, and Ralos Zek the giants, fierce and formidable beings, intent upon the defense of their lands. It was inevitable that such energies involved in seeding planets with life would attract even more of the gods, and it was the elves who drew the unwanted attention of Inaruk, Prince of Hate. In a decrepit tower overlooking the dark decaying alleys over the plain which he ruled, Inaruk waited, stoking the fire of his hate until it was a raging inferno. Inaruk cursed his fellow gods for not including him in their pact, and vowed to make them regret such disrespect. From the halls of the elves' fair city, Takashi's, the Prince of Hate snatched away the first elven king and queen. In his realm of pain and anger, he slowly tore them apart, physically and mentally, over the course of 300 years. He then gathered the quivering remnants of these beings of light and rebuilt them into his own dark, sadistic image, a twisted mockery of Tuner's noble children. In depositing the Terdal, as Inaruk's dark elven creations would come to be called, back into Norrath, the seeds for the Prince of Hate's final revenge were sown. Fizzlethorpe Bristlebane and Kazakh Thule came next to Norrath, and Brell met with them, concocting a second pact with these latter gods, wishing another excuse to create more peoples into this world. Ralos Zek again watched from afar, determined to add to his creation as well, and this time Brell convinced the warlord to join the pact, assuring him that it was indeed an appropriate time to fulfill his desires. Deep in the earth did Brell return to create the gnomes, resembling dwarves to some extent, yet more wiry and gnarled, consumed with tinkering with devices more so than their cousins. On the surface, away from the elves and giants, Bristlebane made the halflings, short and stubby folk, agile and with a propensity to meddle and even pilfer at times. Kazakh Thule, Lord of Fear, was drawn to the swamps and jungles of Norrath, and there created the green-skinned trolls and the reptilian lizardmen and Ixar. Ralos Zek returned to the surface, pleased with his sanction to create even more races for his army. He made then the ogres, massive, unmovable beings of questionable intelligence, and the orcs, bred for battle and single-minded in their desire for conquest. By this time, those who were now known as the elder races of Norrath had begun to expand and mature. Villages became cities, and cities became kingdoms. Several of the races became bent on expansion, and warfare became part of their developing cultures. This has been Lore of Everquest, the World of Norrath. In closing, I would like to thank all the developers that have worked on Everquest over the years, and a special thanks to the late Brad McQuaid, without whom this world likely never would have existed. In our next video, we will explore the war between the forces of Ralos Zek and the Plane of Earth, as well as the fate that befell the armies of Zek. We will also cover the rise and destruction of the Eldar Empire, the colonization of Tuneria, and the civil war on Otis. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in more EverQuest or MMORPG related content, feel free to stop by my live stream at twitch.tv/BobbyBick, and feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel where I'll be posting more lore videos in the future. See you next time!